Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Happy Client Web Build. In this tutorial we're looking at how Trello can help in the build process, and we'll start doing some coding on the main page. So we'll be looking at Trello and how it supports the process as far as step-by-step web building. We'll be coding in Dreamweaver Lite theme, and I'll explain that when we get there. And then we'll be reviewing the team support on the build. So let's get in this. Okay, so guys, I'm not going to go real deep into Trello. Trello is really a magical software that can do some crazy good things. I'm just going to hit the surface of this to explain to you how helpful it is in the build process and kind of whet your appetite as to what it is and how it works, and then give you enough information that you know how to work Trello, and then you guys can just build into it from there and use it how it best suits you. We talked a little bit last time about these blocks and how you've got to put together a Photoshop, and you have to put together this block section here in order to really kind of follow and get your website put together. It actually helps and speed things up to, so that you know the next step, you know where all the things go, and especially if you're going to be working with teams, these are really crucial to do that with. Project managers and scrum masters, if you guys are working with teams, if you're having people do this stuff in Trello and you're giving them something to do here, and then you're handing them nothing more than a wireframe and or something of this nature and expecting them to hand you back anything quality, I think you're failing your team. You have got to put together a Photoshop of what you have discussed with your client and or with the upper management, because when your guys are in the Trello here and they've been given a task and then they're shown kind of what they want that to do, they have got to be given a Photoshop like this if you want to have if you want to get some good results. Your team have got to be able to see what you're expecting them to build. So I think that taking the time to do a Photoshop like this will go a long ways. But anyway, let's get back into the Trello. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about how these things go together, guys. So you have your nav section and then your top header, and on your sprint 1 is your nav section and top header. Now what you do in Trello is you have your projects over here, and of course I've got my home page here. You can see as you build these, you can add a card here. You can click on this and you can add this information to add a card, and then these are all the projects that you're trying to accomplish over here, and then you take each one of these and you put them over here in a sprint, and then you hand each one of these to your team, and then that pertains to this block section here. Now more times than not, depending on if you have a single page scroll page or if you have multi-pages, your nav section and your header and also your footer here are generally built once. Get that silly thing to go down there, it's acting like a goofball on me. Okay, so anyway, you can see how you can move these down here so that you can set them up like you want them to, as far as how you want your team to work on those. But when you put your footers and your headers together, and then you'll come in here and you'll put this into a test section here so that it is tested. You do your alpha test and you do a beta test, and make sure that it works well, it's survivable, nothing crashes, and it's just working well for you. And once it passes that test, you generally don't have to come back to header stuff or footer stuff, only possibly to make simple changes and tweaks and stuff of that nature. But your product display here on your home page, and then you have your separators here, and then you have your picture links here, and then you have product images here. And as I showed you on this before, when we set this up in a Photoshop, is how do we want this to look. We'll be now coding this out, and I'll have this very simply coded in the HTML and CSS and some JavaScript, and then we'll physically put these images in here so that we know they're landing on that website like we want to. And then, as I mentioned in the other video, we'll work on taking our code and going into the database and grabbing these and putting out multiples of those. So let's jump in and start doing some code. Okay, Code Ninjas, here we go with this next part, and as promised, I told you I would talk to you about the fact that I was programming in both Dreamweaver and Visual Studios. So what I want to do is real quick is just kind of show you here. Here is this is Dreamweaver, and the nice thing about Dreamweaver is that it has the icon. It uses a lot of the icon settings. Virtual Studios does not. It kind of relies more on, as an example, if I do a hyphen right here and just hit a tab, it fills in this whole page for me, which is really kind of nice. Over on Dreamweaver, I don't have that. I got to do the hyphen and then the doc here, and I just need to basically type that whole thing out. What that does is when you start this initially, it asks if you want to do it in the HTML or the PHP, and then it fills all that in. So if I take this and I copy this and I stick this over into Dreamweaver so that they are both the same, we'll go from here. We'll do a save on this, and then we will do a save over here on this. Okay, so now what I want to do, what I want to start on next, guys, is just kind of show you in the body here. What's nice about this is if, as an example, if I want to do a form in here, I just do form like that and tab, and that gives me the stuff here on my form. If I want to do an input, I do an input like that, and it gives me this information. And then you kind of need to know a little bit more about code in order to add or do certain things like that. They've got some nice tools that you can add to that will insert a lot of that stuff. I do so much code just freehand that I don't rely a lot on those things. But that might be something that is handy for you guys. Now if you come over here on forms on this layout and you just click on the form you want, you fill this information out, it will give you the form that you're looking for, and it will lay all this stuff out in sprites and forms of that nature. So that's some of the nice things. That's kind of the differences in Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is a part of the Adobe Suite, so it can be kind of expensive. I've seen it anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 a seat. You can also get it $750 to $1,000 a year out of the cloud from the SaaS support. The nice thing about some of the things that guys like about the Adobe Suite is that you can go from your Photoshop and your AI and then right into your coding of the Dreamweaver. So they like to have all those tools essentially in one place, because they like that cross-reference with that IDE. The nice thing about Visual Studios is that it is open source and it is free, and it's a very, very powerful IDE for being open source. So those are kind of the differences. You'll notice me jump in and out of both of these because I use both of these depending on kind of what I'm doing. I just jump back and forth between the two of them. So you'll see me maybe do that a little bit. And then one of the things that I reference to and that I like the light theme. I know a lot of guys, they like to go with that dark theme, and I hate it. I've tried to do it because they say it's easy on your eyes. I hate it. I like to go with this light theme because I feel like I've got text on paper. It is so much more legible, and I make so few mistakes with it because of your hyphens, your semicolons, your less than, equal than, a lot of the things like that. I just can't see that as well on the dark theme. So with the Virtual Studios and with the Dreamweaver both, I use the light theme, and that's what I mentioned and talked about earlier on. Okay, guys, another thing that I want to bring out as we're going through some of this stuff, I'm going to put some of this code in here so that you can see it on the display over here on the right. So what we want to do is next in we'll do the header. Okay, and then inside of that header, let's say this is the nav goes here. Okay. Then we're going to come down and we'll do another header as we're putting this together. Whoops, I'm sorry. We got a header. ER, you goofball. Go like this. And then here, this is the Riva Lorraine icon text here. Okay, and then we'll come down and we're going to do a good night if I could spell. We're going to do a section here, and inside of the section we've got an H3 that we're going to put in here, and then this will be, like as an example, product, display. Some of the things we'll have in here. Now if I do a save on this, and then come over here, you can see that that is showing up on this. Now what I want to do is I want to take this just for speed, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come over here in the Dreamweaver. Okay, I'm going to put this stuff in the Dreamweaver. Now you'll notice the Dreamweaver, did you see that just update right there? I was going to do a copy paste, but the Dreamweaver just updated because both the Dreamweaver and Virtual Studios is looking at the same file. And so Dreamweaver recognized that and it updated. Okay. So I can look at the Dreamweaver here, and I can come over here and I can refresh this, and the Dreamweaver will do the same thing. But let me mention one thing here that I wanted to kind of show you. Nav goes here. Let's see, I'll just kind of change some stuff here really quick. Nav goes, let's say all Ross. Something of that nature. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that. So my point is, guys, is this is where the project managers and the Scrum Masters and people who are dealing with a lot of this stuff, this is just kind of a kick for GitHub. GitHub is really nice because if you're using offshore third-party people to help you with things, and or if project managers and Scrum Masters, have teams of guys that are sitting in the front rooms of, sometimes all over the world, depending on how they're putting a website together or maintaining. Once I do something like that, it changes this, and so you can see the circus that you would be dealing with, because here I am making these changes over here in Dreamweaver, and the changes are different here in this one, but yet it's affecting the main project. So the nice thing with the tool of GitHub is you load that stuff into GitHub, and then your project manager, your Scrum Masters, they review that, make sure that code is compatible and everything works with everything before they load that into a hot scenario. So that's just kind of gives you an idea why GitHub is so important, and if you're going to be using third-party people to help you with a form or something of that nature, GitHub becomes a real valuable thing. We won't be going over GitHub because I'm just going to basically be putting some of this stuff together for you and showing you the real basics. But again, if you're going to be using an off-source or offshore third party, you might consider watching one of my tutorials or one of the other guys' tutorials on GitHub and how to use GitHub to kind of help protect the integrity of the web page. Okay, guys, see you in part 3.